What Juices You, where we explore what energizes leaders and how that energy fuels performance, connection, and growth. I'm Brady Wilson from Juice Inc. And in each episode, I sit down with leaders and we talk about what fuels them, what sustains them, and the lessons they've learned that can be helpful for all of us. Today, I'm excited to have Kelley Myers. She's a CHRO of an organization called VHA, and we'll get into what they do. Kelley, welcome.
Brady, thank you so much. Delighted to be here with you today.
Yeah. So we'll start today with a question that I've been asking leaders. Literally, it's been 20 years that I've been asking this question. I can't believe it. But the question is, what juices you? So what's the thing that Kelley Myers wakes up in the morning? You don't have to fuel it. It fuels you, energizes you. And it just is the reliable source of energy through all the changes and vicissitudes of life. And it is possible that there are stories of things that happened to you early on, even, as a teenager or younger, that caused that fuel source to be so important to you. So don't be afraid to go there if you want to. But we're just going to have a great conversation about what you do. And in particular, when I think about the work that you do at VHA, caring for people and trying to ensure that they can stay in their homes with a level of care that is second to none, and a workforce that can sometimes feel a little bit at risk because of people's expectations. How do we manage and sustain your employees' energy in the midst of that kind of a very interesting vibe? So that's kind of where I think we might go today. But I will start with my question, and that is, Kelley Myers, what juices you in that kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say to you that it's easy, because the answer to that for me is working with, and I've got a list of criteria.
Hmm.
Passionate. So got to be
Yep.
passionate, smart, deeply caring people who love what they do.
Okay.
And those four ingredients, like they are my recipe card for what I absolutely need. And I had the experience really early in my career. I was actually in my early 20s, and I had the opportunity to work with a great boss. Now, he wasn't a perfect boss because I'm
Yeah.
not sure there's any such thing as a perfect boss.
Right.
But he was a great boss. And what really stuck with me, so I was young, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I had no idea this idea of career and where I was headed and what I was doing and what was going to be important to me. I had no I had no grounding in any of that, other than I was
Sure.
like hardworking. And what really made him a great boss is, in my mind, he had all of those criteria. So he was super passionate. So when
Yep.
he showed up at the office every day, it was like, he at times kind of came in like a tornado, but his energy and his like, boom, this man is here, was really present. And his passion, so he was a labor relations guy,
Okay.
and his passion for labor relations just came out in everything that he did. And so, my next criteria, which is smart,
Yeah.
he was really, he was an expert at what he did. He was exceptionally knowledgeable, and he was very generous with his time and with his knowledge. And so that, passionate energy combined with, I've got something I really want to talk about and kind of spread my thoughts about, really turned me on to labor relations. And I thought, this is kind of it. I knew nothing about it from my prior education, but he just kind of ignited this passion in me. And then to, deeply caring. So one
Mm.
of the things that he did again as a leader is, he got to know me. And we had great conversation about, you're young and just starting your career, and what do you think about this HR thing? And so he created the time and the space and the place for us to be able to, to dialogue.
Yeah.
And I was, such a neophyte, like trying to figure out, where am I going? And so one of the things he did was he'd be talking about cases in particular. Then this case, blah, blah, blah thing happened. And it piqued my curiosity. And so I was able to say, listen, can I get access to, can I get some of that case law? Can I, what can I read? What can I do? And so we, started this exchange whereby I, kind of turned into his student and started to pick up materials and learn and read. And then we would have marvelous debates. So, to my
Mm.
last criteria about loving what you do, we then, kind of talk about, what happened in this particular case, and so his passion, ignited this wonderful passion in me, and a shared interest, and I think I was really influenced by his love of what he did, and realized there was a lot of alignment there. And then maybe the last thing I'll just say about that is, again, in the great boss category,
Yeah.
um, one of the things that he just was incredibly skillful at, and I observed this not just with myself, but with other people
Hmm.
and everybody who he interacted with, is that he wasn't one of those people who put you in a box.
Yes.
And so, again, I was in a very junior role, but he didn't, put that box around me. So he created lots of space for
Mm.
more possibility, more learning, more growth.
Yeah.
And that was really it. It was really the fuel that ignited me. And so I'd say, what I learned from that experience, and this actually didn't come to me until much later in my career, when I had a boss and I didn't get all of those things.
Yes.
They were missing, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it really did create for me a sense of, no, these are my requirements, and if I can't get all of these, needs met, then our this relationship isn't gonna work. So it's been a criteria that I've used when I've assessed, future jobs.
I can bet that you have had leaders who were deeply passionate and incredibly smart and intelligent and loved what they did, but potentially were missing the deeply caring part. Because I see those three show up a lot. And one of the things that I'm noting is that when you really sense and feel someone's care and it is authentic and genuine, you can actually debate. There's almost a shorthand of creative conflict where you can just go head to head with each other because that was in the bank. There's no question about that. That's not what's on the table here. But I can imagine that in other bosses where they have those three, but you don't know if they really care about your highest good, or they're not really creating space around you, that, yeah, you're not able to do the creative conflict. You're not able to go to that debate. And it's almost like it doesn't matter how much they know. It doesn't even matter how passionate they are. So that deeply caring thing is kind of a big one. It's not that the other ones aren't.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And again, when I kind of reflect on it, um, you know, uh, I guess my thought is, work is hard. And there are times, even when you're really passionate about what you do and you love your job, um, that, you are dealing with, complex issues in front of you that don't have perfect solutions. And you're, you know, trying to work collaboratively to find that, find that best solution. And, if you can't have the confidence and comfort to
Yeah.
have that really, good debate, okay, like let's just like call it like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah. Yeah.
let's really really talk about what this is all about. And yeah, it's so very important. And I think if you don't have it, you pull your punches, you don't have
Yeah.
the full debate, you
Yeah.
probably don't end up with the best product
Right.
or outcome. It just but you're right. If you can short circuit it, because you already know, right? You've got my back. You value me and my contribution, and I don't have to like carefully, ever so carefully choose every word that I'm saying. We can just have like, let's have a real conversation about, the best outcome here. I think, yeah, that synergy, and again, and disagreeing, right? Like that's the other thing. I think, learning um, to disagree and maintain, your own sense of integrity and respect,
Yeah.
and with the other person. There's some real art in doing that, and the deeply caring, I think, is a critical criteria to get there.
You've been around the block in HR. My question for you is which one is the first to go? When the pressure comes on, when business is tough, you've got to create an unbelievable, I'm going to call it patient or customer experience with aged population and their family members who deeply care about and who feel sometimes very entitled to a certain level of care. And you've got an aging, in one sense, employee base, um, and and so the the confluence of those two can make life difficult for leaders. And I see that often the first one to go is not the intelligence, is not the passion of what we want to achieve. It's none of that. It's like the deeply caring for the human being. And so we know that if you want a great customer experience, you got to start upstream from that. It starts with a great employee experience, but often isn't that deeply caring the first one to go? And I'm putting words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you're bang on, and I think it's not intentional. It's unintentional,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about time and space, right?
Yeah,
Like I'm going so fast, and I think all of us having navigated the pandemic, it was, and in every industry there were certainly so many challenges. In healthcare, they were profound, right? And incredibly impactful, for everybody.
yeah,
And the piece that was so vital for us to sustain
yeah,
was actually that caring piece.
yeah,
Because, we knew that our people, we're nothing, if not for our people delivering the incredible care and putting themselves on the line every single day. And, thinking about the impact to their own health and well-being and their families. And so the way that our leadership team showed up around deeply caring
yeah.
was like the absolute um, essential thing that needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, in hindsight, it wasn't a hard thing to do because it already existed, right? That we had, I think, um, there is a level of recognition within our organization about um, the kind of the heart that we bring to our work
Yeah.
that we talk about explicitly.
Yes.
One of the things that we did that I'm like so incredibly proud of, is our culture is pretty special. And so to figure that out, like, okay, it's like, how is it special and what makes us different from other organizations? one of the things that we did is we went out and talked to staff about like home healthcare is hard work.
Yeah.
There are lots of other places to work. There's places you can get paid more money. There's
Hmm.
places you can have an easier job. Why the heck do you keep working here?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
help us understand. Why do you keep working? Why do you keep working here? And what was incredible were the stories that came out of people about, so like for me, I've got my list of
Yeah.
criteria. There were three emergent big categories that were those, and I'm going to use your language of things that matter most,
Yeah.
but things that matter most to our people.
Hmm.
And they were leading with purpose. So that
Mm.
notion of wherever we're going as an organization, the direction we're headed, it is with intentionality. It's with purpose. We want to
Hmm.
be at the front of the pack. We want to
Mm.
lead research. We want to lead advocacy efforts. So that notion of really leading with purpose and being part of something bigger where we're headed in a direction.
Hmm.
Um, the second category that emerged was creating bonds that matter. And when we unpacked, like, okay, so what's that really about? We unearthed this notion that we actually care about each other as much as we care about our clients. So so many of our folks get into healthcare because they care about the patient journey, they care about
Oh
their
yeah.
clients. Um, but we kind of tied the piece together, which is like it's not just about the clients or the patients, but it's really about us as a team and how we support each other, how we have each other's backs, how we communicate and relate to each other. So creating bonds that matter. That was the second category. And then the third one was, again, in home care, different than other environments. Our people have always been remote. They're out and they're
Yes.
in incredibly different environments, working in people's homes, sometimes under very difficult circumstances. And they're independent, so they're connected to us as an organization and their colleagues, but they're very much independent
Yeah.
practitioners as
Yeah.
well. And so the third notion was about being empowered every day to bring your best, do your best, that we trust you're going to know what the best looks like, and that you're going to do your best by your client, and that you're empowered every day to where there are issues that you're flagging those, because things go wrong, that you're
Hmm.
flagging those issues, that you're identifying problems, that you're bringing solutions, and that really that notion of each of us as an individual has the ability to not just impact the direct person that we're working with, but to impact us as an organization and the system overall. So that we are empowered every day to try to, bring that impact forward and be agents of change.
This is fascinating to me. And it's been a little while since I've touched your organization, VHA, because we've had another of our superstars in there, Stephanie, who's been working closely with you. But this language and creating bonds, that is such brilliant language. I love that. So it's no secret to you that we talk a lot about the meaning piece, the why. We talk a lot about belonging, inclusion, acceptance. This is the group that I love to be with, that affiliation and relatedness. And we talk a lot about autonomy and the ability to, like your language, flag or challenge what doesn't make sense or push back on what's not working, and to be able to make the call. Like, no, actually, in this situation, I did this because it was going to be the best thing for the client and the best thing for my relationship with the client. So, those driving needs that we like to talk about, meaning and belonging and autonomy. Now, there are others we could talk about, but those three are showing up writ large for those. And so, Kelly, just give us a bit of context. We're talking PSWs, we're talking nurses. Who are we talking about here who care about
Actually
these
talking
three
about it,
things?
we're talking about everybody. So
Okay.
so what we did as our first sort of call of like getting information in,
Yeah.
was to ask people what they love about their job.
Okay.
Like, what do you right? What is it you work at VHA, you know, why are you here? And
Yeah.
what is it that you love about your job? And so it was really out of those stories written by our staff.
Yeah.
So the words that we now use, they're
Yeah.
not my words.
Yeah.
They're the words of our team members.
Wow.
And we had a small working group who kind of took the stories, and we kind of figured out, okay, well, how do these fit together, and
Sure.
how do they hang together to kind of come up with our three areas. Yeah, so it really is across the board. And then we tested it. Then we, went out with focus groups. We went to, you know, groups of leaders. We went to frontline personal support workers, to nurses. We have many rehabilitation therapists, talk to them as well. So it was really talking to our variety of our workforce segments to say, like, here's what we're hearing. We want to test it. Is this resonating for you or
Mhm.
not? And so with that, we, distilled, and so that create, those three pillars that I've referred to really do make up our employee value proposition. It's like,
Okay.
what is it about VHA that is different?
Yeah.
And, as we all know, having our values and articulating, like, what do we value as an organization? But, across most organizations, they all kind of sound the same, right? Like respect, of course, like those
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
expect all of those things.
Yeah. I would imagine this charts the course for every bit of management training, leadership development, who moves forward as a leader and who doesn't, because anybody who is exquisite at not necessarily being a contributor themselves, but figuring out how do I contribute through others to have them leading with purpose and creating the bonds that matter and bringing their best. Anybody who can figure out the magic of how I contribute through others through these three avenues, that's going to be a leader who's going to be going places at VHA.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then we created two other interesting links to,
Okay.
because obviously we didn't want to, do this as an exercise and have it collect,
Mm,
dust on our career site or and on our web pages.
sure.
So what we did was we created we have always had some form of recognition program.
Yep.
Um, but we turned our attention to, okay, so doesn't it make sense? Like, these are the behaviors. This is what, really excelling at VHA looks like.
Hmm.
And so we morphed we have a program that's called Client Choice. And we asked our clients, we think we've got great people. We hear from you that we have great people,
Hmm.
but we want to hear from you about, do they do these things? Do they lead with purpose? Do they build bonds that matter? Are they empowered every day? And what impact have they had on you and on your family?
Yeah.
And so we created this program, which I don't know how many years it's been running now, a good number of years.
Mhm.
But we've aligned the recognition and awards program. So we've got nominations coming in from clients that tell stories of, like, this is how this person built a bond with our family. And so we had I should know the exact number, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but I want to say something like, I don't know, 800 or so nominations in a 1 month period, from our clients who've handwritten letters or typed an email or made a phone call
Wow.
to, say, here's what I've experienced. So we've um, really, I think, from a sustainability perspective, got this strategy which, has everybody kind of talking about these elements that our people tell us are the most important things.
Yeah.
And so we celebrate those winners. And then the more recent thing that we've done, so that had quite a client focus.
Yeah.
And to your comment about leaders, we're like, okay, we're missing something here with the leaders. We got to figure this out. And so with our leaders, we're now in, I think this is our third year for our leadership program. And we have a similar nomination process. It's open for a month. And we talk about, we are a leaderful organization, and it's not about your title. It's not about everybody at VHA has the capacity to be a leader. And so, among you, who would you like to nominate who has demonstrated leadership capabilities and capacities,
Yeah.
and behaviors in these three areas,
Yeah.
or in any one of the three areas. And so it's, as I say, this we're just in the process of kind of finalizing our winners for this year, and it's grown in terms of the nominations we get every year. We had over 100 nominations.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
I think that there would be other organizations out there, your competitors, so St. Elizabeth's Healthcare, et cetera, who would probably die to have the problem that you have, which is we've got 800 people of our employees who have been nominated for doing these things, and 100 nominees in our leadership cadre who are exhibiting these three behaviors to the point that it's got other people's attention, where they're noticing it and saying, "I've got to call that out." What a problem to have.
It's it's a nice problem for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, so in terms of energizing people in the midst of the difficult task that they do, it really comes down for you anyway to focusing the organization. There are many places that you could focus, many things you could recognize, but you've decided that amongst all of the different elements that make up organizational life, if we can just focus on these three, that is going to be a reliable energy source for, because they told you through the stories and anecdotes that these were the ones. And so this is several years old now.
It is. It is. Yes, 3 years for the leadership program, and goodness, I can't. Um, yeah, probably a good 8 years
Mhm.
for the rest of the program, the
Yeah.
client choice
Yeah.
side of things. Yeah.
Kelley, what do you do in terms of, so I've done work with organizations like UNICEF and purpose-driven organizations like VHA who have these stories, and it's almost like you could call them sacred bundle stories, right? Like it's almost like this bundle of stories that are so sacred because they speak about the DNA. They speak about what resides and bone deep in the organization that perpetuates incredible behavior. And often there are stories that are so emblematic of that they create a wavelength, a ripple effect. Are there some of those stories that you just keep going back to, for instance, when you're onboarding people and say, when it comes to creating bonds, let me tell you this story of what this person did? Do you have like a handful of those types of stories?
So one of the things that we've done to again have the program really be sustained over time, and to, again, we in home care experience a fairly high level of turnover. Certainly our turnover has improved
Yeah.
significantly, but there are lots of reasons why people change jobs. And we've got, that constant influx of new people into the organization. So, um, two things I want to talk about. So the first is recruitment, and uh, actually, maybe I'm going to go in different order. The first will be to talk about the back to the awards program. So
Okay.
we video with our clients and our award winners a video segment that they're small, relatively small commercials, I'm going to say,
Yeah.
just a couple of minutes, but that capture the essence of what was the impact to the family and what were the
Mm-hmm.
unique characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, there's a lot of subtlety to, what it is about performance that can have such an impact.
Yeah.
And so those stories, again, from the client's own voice, kind of talking about, you know being you know being at the bedside, when mom was dying,
Yeah.
and how to help support the family, and the client, and ensure that that process of dying was as peaceful as it could be, and with such care and compassion. Like, you have to hear those words from a client directly. And
Oh, I can
so
imagine.
so we've yeah so we have these wonderful collection of video segments, that we make available, that we share with our new hires, and yeah, we really kind of keep them alive, and then we keep adding to the library,
Oh, yeah.
with every year the additional stories, and yeah, it's got incredible impact.
Do you know if the board gets to watch
Oh,
some of every kind of second or third board meeting or every board meeting? Do they tap into that repository?
absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. That is exactly what we do.
Yeah. So these
To just kind of share
videos,
those insights in
yeah,
terms of our impact. Yeah.
yeah,
And the quality of our teams.
that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I have witnessed that in purpose-driven organizations, the stories can be one of the first things to go because we just got to get down to business, and they can seem like extraneous or fluff. But yeah, we all know we make a difference, and so we can give ourselves permission to say, let's not take the time in this meeting to tell those stories, right? But that's not what I'm hearing from your organization. It's like, oh no, this is
Mm,
the lifeblood of everything that we do. And especially that first one in terms of leading with purpose. It's not just research, it's not just advocacy. The purpose of treating people with incredible dignity and honor and respect in their most difficult moments. There's massive purpose embedded in that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Even with within our team meetings, so smaller team meetings, videos, get utilized in that context as well. And then when we do town halls,
Yeah.
so it's like the annual celebration, but then throughout the year, we're really kind of sprinkling throughout. And again, we've got a really great communications team that understands, again, about the heart of our organization, and so it's very intentional that all of our materials also are aligned, and talk about, yeah, those bonds that matter.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question that you may or may not want to answer. So just frame it up that way
Okay.
because you might want to hold your cards close to your chest, which is fine. But when people do leave and you kind of wish they hadn't, and we all know that, compassion fatigue and empathy fatigue, and just I've been at this for 20 years. It's just the most beautiful time for that person to either take on a new chapter or actually it's time to retire. Beautiful. Nobody would ever argue that it's time to go. But there are times when we see people go and we go, oh, we lost one there that we lost too early.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I'm seeing that these three focal points are averting those types of human disasters. Uh, but are there things that you would say, yeah, when we miss it, it's typically about this. When someone's unregrettable turnover that somehow we didn't catch with these three focal points, it tends to be one of these. If you were to take those cards away and show us
Mm.
what are those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Really happy to speak to that. So I'd say that first off, we work hard and it is hard work to try to have those conversations so we actually do deeply understand what happened.
Hmm.
So, whether that's in the form of an exit interview, so either through a survey or through the direct connection.
Yeah.
So, our business partners in HR, we really encourage them as soon as they, hear about a termination or resignation that they're reaching out and saying, "Hey, love to have a conversation."
Yeah.
Um, and we also have a survey. So whatever you'd prefer, please think about one of these two methods. So we get some good data
Hmm.
from that. And at times, and not surprisingly, there is always the myriad of things, right? It's
Yeah.
about it kind of age and stage, and I need to make a career transition, um, personal issues that are causing someone to actually maybe step out of the workforce completely
Yeah.
for a period of time.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I want to just comment on the career transition. Not every organization has the right next step in your career at the right time.
Yeah.
And so something that I'm delighted that we've got a great track record is about, if we've had a great relationship and knock on our door 3 years from now, and we are happy to have a conversation, like, let's talk.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And so we really have had some wonderful, us HR folks call them boomerang stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and often, it could be that at that moment we didn't have the next position. Perhaps they were ready to move up in a leadership role,
Hmm.
and we didn't have a vacancy, so they've moved out,
Yeah.
gained some additional experience, and then come back to us.
Right.
And so I think if you've had a great, workplace connection, you make sure the parting is,
Mhm.
appropriate and everybody is good with that, then it really leaves that door wide open for the possibility of a boomerang.
I would think that the number of boomerang people, that's a stat that'd be really interesting. I would think that if an organization has almost nobody who comes back, that's not the best thing in the world. But if you have a bunch of those people, that says a lot. There's a lot in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree with you. Yeah.
yeah. And do you have a lot?
We have a lot.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah, we
gorgeous.
have we have a lot. And those stories aren't stories of like, I made a move and I regretted it, so now I'm like kind of going back to a safe haven. Like, it's not that.
No,
It's
no.
really more about, I moved, I did something different for a while, and I wasn't getting some of what I needed,
Yeah,
right? My needs weren't getting met, and
yeah.
so that confidence to think about coming back to us, and uh, whether it's in the same role or in a different role.
Yeah. What it says to me is that I think very few people would come back if the primary reason was a malignant culture. And I don't feel that people take interest in me as a human being here. I'm just being there's extraction happening, and I'm actually my discretionary effort is just being taken away from me. I don't care. I'm never coming back because it's not a hygiene issue. I think there are a lot of hygiene issues. Yeah, there's a bit of a glass ceiling. I need to get some more training. I can come back after that, or all sorts of other things. But it says to me that the culture is probably working just fine. It's just the mechanics, the flow, and some hygiene issues that when somebody moves away, they get a brand new perspective potentially, or some of these things just get checked off. Uh, but if, yeah, in other organizations, when the culture is not working, they're not coming back no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other piece for us about culture is it's not like you get it in a zone that you're happy with and you're good and you're good. You
Right.
can dust it off. It's like, no, no, no.
Mm.
It is very much the case that it requires that constant attention and nurturing and, resets. If the alignment gets off a little bit, we got to get it back on track.
Yeah.
And so it is a continuous, continual effort, and I'd say, that what's allowed us to keep the focus on that goes back to our strategy, and key component of our strategic plan is again recognizing our people, and the that they are the essence of the organization, and so we really do need to deliver on that promise of a great employee experience, and to try to really leverage to the greatest extent we can, how can we improve that experience for folks.
When I ask people, everybody wants a great customer experience that drives organic growth, and everybody wants a great employee experience. But what is the first one to go in tough times? Of course, it's a rhetorical question because we both know what goes. But it is so bone deep for you that you must guard the employee experience because everything downstream is going to be affected by it. That somehow your organization will not cannibalize that value right there. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Kelley, in the midst of some very difficult healthcare challenges, and of course, COVID just amped that up to the nth degree, right? You came through that. You have a workforce that, people look around and go, yeah, I can see 800 examples of this. Uh, that's amazing. And at the leadership level, you've got to be pretty, I don't know if an HR person is ever really completely fulfilled and happy. It's like there's always like, I'm looking to do more, but you must feel a sense of fulfillment. 18 years and seeing some of these. Not that you did all of them, but I'll bet you had your fingerprints on a lot of those things. How does it feel?
Yeah, yeah, it feels pretty darn good. Um, eh, but I'm gonna say Um, but we know there are always pockets. There are always issues.
Hmm.
Still, is always work to be done. So I think for me, in my leadership role is really the importance of unearthing those pain points
Yeah.
and trying our darndest. And some are issues that we have little control over. So is it more of a communication issue? Like, how are we navigating it? Um, but I, I think looking at things in a very segmented way, and we do have like I'm while our global work life pulse, we do a survey of our employee engagement, and our results are they're fantastic. It's
Yep.
couldn't be more pleased.
Yeah.
Um, when we look at the global numbers, they're terrific. But the reality is, we know there are teams, and we drill in and get very granular and very specific team based results, and there's, some teams that things are not, it's not the
Yeah.
rosy happy picture that I've painted. And
Yeah.
so what the heck are we doing there?
Right.
And so I think, back to my earlier comment about you're never done and it's always a journey. really, working at sustaining it all, but how can we create more bandwidth to focus on those things that are still not in the right zone, and how can we move, what realistically, what can we do this year to move the needle on this, and that we, then get all in on, all right, that's the focus, we're going to get all in on that improvement, and let's try to drive that. So I'd say, some of those changes are more incremental and over time, but we're working at it for sure.
Yeah, I bet you are. And there was a time many, many years ago when a young Kelley Myers saw somebody who was passionate and smart, deeply caring, and loved what he did. And you went on your own journey. And I've watched you now for, it's been about 7 or 8 years, and you've become that very person. So that is quite a beautiful evolution. It's quite a beautiful transformation to see that. And I can expect that there would be some younger and maybe, entry level HR people in your organization that are witnessing the very same thing that you witnessed when you were starting off.
Oh, goodness. Well, Brady, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Yeah, we see it. And our partnership with you has been one that has been, they're not always this way, but this one has been exquisite. And so thank you so much. And thank you for being part of the podcast today. Our listeners are going to love this podcast and everything that you offered. So once again, Kelley Myers, CHRO of VHA right in Ontario here. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Brady.
Okay.